US President Trump has expressed confidence over India-US bilateral trade agreement, noting that two countries are going to have a good deal, while praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a close friend and respected leader. Trump made the remarks following his address at the 56th Annual Summit of the World Economic Forum. Earlier, India's Commerce Secretary Rajesh Agrawal asserted that the much-anticipated first tranche of India-US BTA is very near, but stopped short of providing a timeline. The BTA, formally proposed in February following directives from the leadership of both nations, seeks to more than double bilateral trade from the current 191 billion US dollars to 500 billion US dollars by 2030. All right, DD India's Akshay Dongare joins us for more on this story. Hi Akshay, first of all, Donald Trump clearly renewing his push to acquire Greenland, but taking a different stance of not using force. How do we see this? Diplomacy is going to take center stage in the next few days, but he wants Greenland for sure.
Well, he has reiterated that he wants Greenland for sure. However, you are rightly mentioning that at this time the tone is quite different from what it was earlier. Earlier it was a tariff threat against 8 countries. It was, different kind of threats that were being made from the US Oval Office. But now this time around, the meaning is the same, but the tone is different, which means that the pushback that came from the European allies and the kind of retaliation that even the European Union chief spoke about has made a massive impact as far as the understanding of the US on this entire issue is concerned. However, the friction will remain, Abhishek. That is something what we need to understand, because no country is going to willingly, sail their own territory to a second country. Be it an ally or otherwise, with the sort of relentless push to buy Greenland, the tensions are going to be there, because even though there is no sort of threat of tariff this time around in the claims to buy Greenland, the demand remains the same. Donald Trump at Davos has said that Greenland has been really unfair to them. What he's asking is nothing but a piece of stone, ice, so a small land is what he's claiming in return to what the US has done for the European allies for decades now. However, this doesn't work. If you work for your allies, if you help out your allies, you can't demand their territories in return at a later stage in time, and that is going to shift the entire understanding of geopolitics around the world. What we can see right now is an understanding that will be created in the European Union, that their stand against Donald Trump as far as the acquisition of Greenland has worked to some extent. The language at least has changed, and what this is going to formalize now in the next upcoming days is that European Union will try to take more of such stand, so that the kind of language or the kind of threats that are coming in from the US as far as the acquisition of Greenland is concerned can be changed, and rather this relentless push can be stopped as far as the US ambitions to buy Greenland is concerned.
Right, and he has waived tariffs he previously threatened against the European allies. But talking about India-US trade deal, Akshay, President Trump sounds confident about an India-US trade deal and praises Prime Minister Modi also. How do we see this? How close are the two sides to a concrete agreement?
Well, if we have to see the way the language is changing, you have to understand that the position US is in right now. You have already distanced your some of the closest allies in Europe, one of the biggest market that is there in the world, by threatening to buy their piece of territory, by threatening to buy Greenland, and by threatening them with tariffs. Secondly, your other major ally as far as the Indo-Pacific region is concerned, against the Chinese threat, is India. It has always been there. There has always been a policy of closer relationship in the Indo-Pacific region between the US and and India. However, again, as far as these tariffs are concerned that have been levied against India, the kind of threats that were coming in of 500% tariffs has also made India slightly distanced from the US alliance as far as the region is concerned. So there is it seems that there is an understanding that is developing that you can't really act on your own if you want to remain a major superpower in the world. You will need allies. You will need allies, especially democratic allies like the European Union, like India, and like other countries that US has been alliance with, without which the military power is meaningless if your geopolitical network and your alliance system is broken. So it's a positive sign. At least the
Yeah.
language has changed, but now we'll have to wait and watch, because the language has always, many other times in the past as well, has taken a U-turn. And so that it doesn't happen again, India will have to tread carefully as far as these threats and these change of languages are concerned every once in a while.
All right, Akshay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your inputs on that story.